Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Randana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Mr. Bhad Paramahansa, Padurjakacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa, Padurjakacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On the second day of October 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are still studying Chapter 2, Contents of the Gita, summarized, text 29 on page 96. I'm sorry?
30.
Oh, should do 30. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Check that. We're studying text 30 on page 98. Dehi nityam avadyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam Shochitum arhasi Dehi nityamabadhyoyam Dehi sarvasya bharata Tasmat sarvani bhutani Natvam shochitamarhasi Dehi nityamabadhyoyam Dehe sarvasya bharata Tasmat sarvani bhutani Natvam shochitamarhasi Dehi nityamabadhyoyam Dehe sarvasya bharata Tasmat sarvani bhutani Natvam shochitamarhasi Dehi nityamabadhyoyam Dehe sarvasya bharata Tasmat sarvani bhutani Natvam shochitamarhasi Dehi nityamabadhyoyam Dehe sarvasya bharata Smat sarvani bhutani Natvam shochitamarhasi Dehi nityamabadhyoyam Dehe sarvasya bharata Natvam shochitamarhasi Dehi nityamabadhyoyam Dehe sarvasya bharata Tasmat sarvani bhutani Natvam shochitamarhasi. Bhakta Chad. No?
Yeah.
Keep going.
Dehi nityam avadyoyam
Dehi nityamabadhyoyam
Dehe sarvasya bharata
Dehe sarvasya bharata
Tasma sarvani bhutani
Tasmat sarvani bhutani
Natvam shochitum arhasi.
Natvam shochitamarhasi. Word by words. Dehi, the owner of the material body. Nityam, eternally. Avadyaha, cannot be killed. I am, this soul, Dehi, in the body, Sarvasya, of everyone, Bharata, O descendant of Bharat. Tasmat, therefore, Sarvani, all, Bhutani, living entities that are born, Na, never, Tvam, you, Shochitam, to lament, Arasi, deserve. Translation. O descendant of Bharat, He who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore you need not grieve for any living being. Purport. The Lord now concludes the chapter of instruction on the immutable spirit soul. In describing the immortal soul in various ways, Lord Krishna establishes that the soul is immortal and the body is temporary. Therefore, Arjuna, as a Kshatriya, should not abandon his duty out of fear that his grandfather and teacher, Bhīṣma and Droṇa, will die in the battle. On the authority of Sri Krishna, one has to believe that there is a soul different from the material body, not that there is no such thing as a soul, or that living symptoms develop at a certain stage of material maturity resulting from the interaction of chemicals. Though the soul is immortal, violence is not encouraged, but at the time of war it is not discouraged when there is actual need for it. That need must be justified in terms of the sanction of the Lord, and not capriciously. Om Jnana Timurandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance to him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, as Srila Prabhupada points out in the purport, there was a concise lesson on the qualities of the soul between text 11 and text 30. That's 20 verses. And those 20 verses are a foundation of any progress in spiritual life. The first lesson or revelation is that we ourselves, as spiritual beings, are never born and we never die. We're not mortal. Perhaps the key verse in this series was text 20. Najayate mriyate vakadachan nayam bhutva bhavitava nabuya ajo nitya shastrato yam purano nahanyate hanyamane sharire. That alone is like a full lesson right there. So what does it say? Najayate mriyate va. For the soul, there is never birth and there is never death. And then he says in the second line, it's not that there's a whole bunch of new souls coming into existence now and a whole bunch of souls going out of existence. We are as eternal as Krishna. Krishna has always existed, always will exist. So all the souls that there are going to be exist now. That's what they have not come into being, are not coming into being, and will not come into being. We already exist. So, and then he says, there's a line that's, if you just analyze it, there's a little redundancy here, but I mean, that's okay. He's repeating. Aja, we're unborn, ever existing, undying, and primeval. There's a certain overlap there. But that's the idea, that we always existed, we exist now, and we always will exist. And then the punchline, if you will, especially being on the battlefield, where there's going to be a lot of death of the bodies, nahanyate hanyamane sharire. The soul is not slain when the body is slain. Because in one sense you can see we're all on the battlefield of life. Whether we die of diabetes, of some accident, of a heart attack, whatever it may be, we're slain. The body is slain. It means it becomes dysfunctional for one reason or another. You know, we don't need to count ways. It's a big machine. It's an amazing machine. In my old age here, I'm always amazed when something heals up. You know, because you just go through, like, you get these little bumps, you get the little cuts and this and that, and it's still doing its thing, you know, and after some time there's no cut there anymore. I mean, that doesn't work on a car. You know, everyone has car problems after a time, you know. You got to have an outside fix, you got to get a new thing coming in. You know. So it's an amazing machine, and the intelligence behind it is God. I mean, it's transcendental. There's no way, if you just think about it, that it could arise by some kind of accident through evolution, which is what they taught us. Yes, over many millions of years, the simple-celled, one-celled organisms, you know, came about. After millions of years, there were the amoebas, or the paramecium, whatever they're. And then after millions and millions more years, then they got together, and then they were a little more complicated. No, it's not like that. I remember Bhadrinarayana Maharaj, he brought out a little stack of Origin magazines. Origin magazine was produced, God, I remember when it was produced, in the early 80s, I think. Sariputta and Dhruta Karma were the main writers of it. And it's such an important point, because Prabhupada was always talking about that, how the scientists, they can't really explain how life came about. They can't explain how the whole universe came about. So they have these crazy ideas of the Big Bang, you know? It's a big explosion. I mean, how does a big explosion result in so many fine-tuned things fitting together, and the sun coming up at the right time, and just walk out and look, you know, I mean, in this patio, there's so many amazing miracles of life and, you know, the ecosystems and all these things. Now, we're doing a good job of like ruining them, you know, with all of this carbon release and greenhouse gases and poisons and then plastics everywhere, you know. But that doesn't mean that there isn't the divine touch of the higher intelligence that shows an amazing creativity and life everywhere. So we are, all of us, eternal. We always existed. And I always like to point out that what is the implication there if you read this, because I listen to tapes every day of Prabhupada, and he's talking about how the Bhagavad Gita is meant to produce faith in us. In other words, it's meant to nourish our faith in Krishna, in the process of bhakti and everything else, so that on the basis of that faith we can practice. We can see that, oh, I want to follow this marga, this path of bhakti. Because the result of it is more than you could ever imagine. First of all, the first inducement is we don't have to go through all this. You know, birth and death, old age, disease, birth and death. World War III, you know? No one likes to think about it. But every so often, you know, in my 75 years, I remember vividly the Cuban Missile Crisis, which was exactly the same thing. The Russians had put atom bombs in Cuba because we were always threatening Cuba. So it's okay, well, and they were putting them there, and they had put them there. And that was like the greatest offense, you know, 90 miles off the coast, we're going to have these bombs. So we had all the army going down into South Florida ready for, you know, an invasion. And by Krishna's grace, you know, Kennedy was the president and Khrushchev was the president. They'd both been through World War II, which is an important thing that we don't have now. Nobody's been through World War II. It's leading. And they worked it out, and somehow it was defused. You know, I'm not going to go through what we learned later, that we came this close to annihilation. None of us would be sitting here. So this is the world you live in. On a personal level, there are always threats. We had the pandemic. I just got COVID. Luckily, it was a very mild case, but one of my old friends, two of my old friends died here. One of them not from COVID, but the other, you know, and so it's always a threat. You get on the Dayanidhi Prabhu was riding his bicycle, got knocked in the back of his car. Luckily, he had his helmet knocked through the back window. This was some time ago. He was in the hospital for, I don't know, some time, but he's okay. You know. So this is what material life is. There's this wonderful verse, Samashitaye padapallava plavam mahatpadam punyesho marare pavam buddhiyavatsa padam param padam yadvipadam natesham. Very poetic. So this verse is saying that if we take full shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, Samashitaye padapallava plavam, padapallava means the boat of the lotus feet of Krishna, who is Mahatpadam. He is means two things. He is the place, his lotus feet are where all the Mahatmas, the great souls, take shelter. Or it also means that his lotus feet are the foundation of the Mahatattva. In other words, the whole universe rests on him. Punya Yasha, every word is so significant, means that just by glorifying him, you get pious credits. In other words, it's transformative for your heart. When you chant Hare Krishna or read the Bhagavad Gita, I just had a whole 10 days where I was, if I went out, I had to wear the mask. You know, I came to the temple the last few days. But you can, I don't know about you, but I can't really chant. I really breathe very well with those masks on. But I had to have them on because I was contagious. So it's such a relief, you know, to be able to chant Jaya Radha Madhava, you know, Hare Krishna, and they'll have a nice kirtan. And what you know, you don't realize, you know, consciously how auspicious it is. But just glorifying the Lord in this Bhagavad Gita as it is, written by, you know, realized soul, Srila Prabhupada. When we read the Bhagavad Gita, we're getting to associate with Krishna through his words, which are absolute, and with his pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada. And even with previous acharyas like Baladev Vidyabhushan, who was a great commentator in our line. He's a disciple of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And, you know, every word is important. What is Vidyabhushan? You know what Vidyabhushan means. An ornament, One who has, one who is ornamented with knowledge. In other words, very learned. Just like Prabhupada got the name Bhaktivedanta, recognizing that, you know, he was a very author. He was very learned. He understood that bhakti is the end of all Vedic knowledge. That's what it means. Not impersonalism, not, you know, going to heaven, but bhakti, going back to God. So. It was so fortunate. Prabhupada worked so hard to give us these books so that we could have this chance to get purified and nourish our faith. So back to the word, the verse in hand. It's kind of a summary verse. Descendant, he who dwells in the body can never be slain, therefore you need not grieve for any living being. That's really the whole point of his telling this. Is that you remember how it started? Who remembers? Ashochanam Ashochastram Pragyavaram Shabashase? Anyone remember what that means? He says, because Arjuna surrendered unto Krishna as a guru, right? Up until that point, he was arguing with him as friend to friend. And as Prabhupada points out often, I think in some of the purports, the friendly talks can go on from here to eternity, but they never get an end, you know, because you think you're on an equal level, you know. So Arjuna, in text 7 of this chapter, he surrenders to Krishna. He changes the whole relationship, the dynamic. He says, Karpanidosho bhata svabhava prichami tam dharma sammuda cheta yakshe yaksyanishitam bruhitam me shishasteham sharimam tvam papannam. Such a dramatic verse. That due to this miserly weakness, what it means, Karpanidosho bhata svabhava. Dosha means a fault. You know, this fault in my character. Upahata svabhava. It has stolen away my real nature, because Arjuna is a fighter's fighter. He's the ideal warrior. But he's not. He can't fight. His desire to fight has been taken away because on the other side he's got all these friends and relatives, and it's too much, you know. And so he's paralyzed. He's set down on the chariot. But now he surrenders to Krishna. And then what's the result of all of this confusion? Pritchami tvam dharma samuda cheta. My mind is bewildered about what is the right thing to do. You see, someone who's an Aryan, the Vedic culture, they're very concerned about spiritual values, about what is the right thing, what is the real dharma. Because we know that if you do adharmic things, then your future is very dark. So Arjuna and his brothers were personified dharma. Yudhishthira, his elder brother, who was going to be crowned king at the end of the battle, he was the son of Yamaraj, who's also known as Dharmaraj. He's the judge. You're brought before him if you're sinful, and he judges just what punishment you're going to get. So Yudhishthira was extremely dharmic. Won't get into all the details, but it kind of got him into trouble, because if a Kshatriya is challenged to a gambling match, he has to say yes. He knew that the other side was going to cheat him. I said yes, you know. And even though he lost everything, again they challenged, okay, again I'll go. And then they went exile, the exile. They lost all the kingdom. If you read the Krishna book, if you read the 10th canto, the Rajasuya was performed by Yudhishthira when he was the king. He was in Hastinapur, and all the kings came, they paid tribute, Krishna came and everything, and they killed Shishupal. Right? It was after the Rajasuya, and that they cheated him out of the whole kingdom, and they ended up in exile for a whole year, the whole thing. So all of this took place, but still, all of the brothers, they were completely dharmic. But Arjuna is saying, now I'm bewildered about what's the right thing to do. Because my gut, my heart is telling me one thing. I don't want to fight against my beloved guru and grandfather and all these other relatives. There's one purport in the first chapter, where it says Arjuna looked over the armies and he saw friends and relatives on both sides. And there's a whole list in the purport. The purport is like a list, because they're mentioned of brothers-in-law and uncles and sons and friends and everything. So it gives an example of each one in the enemy army. In the enemy army. What to speak of his own army, you know. So then this is why he's paralyzed. So the whole point of the Bhagavad Gita externally, besides giving all this, you know, spiritual instruction, is to get Arjuna to surrender and fight, to go against his gut reaction and to listen to the higher instruction of Krishna, the super soul, who is personified Dharma. Prabhupada would always quote this verse: how do we know what is Dharma, what is real religion, what isn't? So he had this formula. It's in the 6th canto. Dharma, oh my God. How's it go? Thanks. Dharma to sakshat bhagavat pranitam. Did you know that one?
No, I was saying that Krishna was on.
Yeah. That wasn't Krishna, it was Balaram. So what that means is that Dharma are the words of God. In other words, it's always enunciated by God, and that's what we're reading here. We're reading Krishna's words, and it's defining what is the right thing to do for ourselves and for the world at large. This is what real Dharma means. And in the Bhagavatam, we find in the 2nd chapter a very nice definition. Real Dharma as opposed to cheating Dharma. Because everything that's valuable can have its counterfeit, because people know it's valuable. So we have Kaitava Dharma, cheating Dharma. So what is real Dharma? Savaipungsang paro dharma, yato bhaktir hokshaje. That Dharma which engenders, which produces pure bhakti, pure love for God, that's real Dharma. You see? And what's the criterion for that? Unmotivated, meaning no selfish motivation, and uninterrupted, constant. That is the goal of actual Dharma, to bring you to that point of taking your pleasure wholly and solely and giving pleasure to God. You see? And we find that pleasure is not like the flickering pleasure of the senses, which has a beginning and an end, and which is the source of all misery. But the pleasure that comes from serving God with love and devotion doesn't end, because it's spiritual. It can happen all the time, 24 hours a day. You could be sleeping and serving Krishna in your sleep, and you wake up blissful. It doesn't depend on the externals. You see, so that's where we want to get to, and this is the final verse here, summing it up, that the soul is eternal and is never slain. Therefore, you should not lament. Lamentation and hankering are symptoms of material consciousness. The spiritual consciousness, that's one of the first symptoms. Bhuta, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kankshati. This word shochati, notice the word shochatam. Shochatam is the noun, shochati is the verb. It means to lament. Why do we lament? Because we can't get what we want, you know, because we're hankering for something, or we got it and we lost it, you know. Oh, I lament, when I was younger I could do so many things, now I've lost it. I'm old, you know, I can't enjoy this way, that way. Oh, let me take another drink. Forget. You know, but says, therefore you should not lament for anyone, because there is no death. I have my little poem. I think we have someone new here. You heard it 1,000,000 times. Everybody dies. See, I'm an editor. Yeah, every body dies. Every space body dies. That's, who can argue? Everybody dies. Nobody dies. Wake up and open your eyes. You're not that body, you're a pure spirit soul. Chant the holy name and attain life's goal. We can make a t-shirt of that.
Yeah, you can. I just had a quick question.
Oh, we have a mic. Because we have an audience. We have Bhakta Chad wants to hear it. Oh, we have it right here. Hey, here you go. Here you go. What's
So
your
my,
name, Babu?
my name's Noah.
Noah.
Yes.
Nice to meet you, Noah.
Nice to meet you too. Hare Krishna. Glad to be here. So my question is, are we because the soul has no beginning or end, are we as old as Krishna?
Yep.
That's awesome.
As old as you can get. Aja. Aja means no birth. We're infinitely old. But the body, you know, it changes. This is what gets old. Birth, growth, sustenance, deterioration, death. And every body, it could be a dog's body, it could be an ant's body, it could be a tree's body. You go through that. So we want to get free from that. That's like the first goal. It's not the last goal, but it's the first goal that gets you going seriously. I don't want to keep going through that cycle, you know, because Krishna in the 10th chapter he has this statement. It's called the Vibhuti Yoga. He's describing his glories, you know, of bodies of water on the ocean, you know, of fish on the shark, of devotees on Prahlad Maharaj. He has a whole list there, and then he says, "Mrityu sarvaharaschaham." As death, I take everything away, everything material away. So if our whole aspiration and what we value is on the material plane, you can see how threatening and how catastrophic that is when everything is lost at the time of death. You see? But for devotees whose assets are not material, you try to live as simply as possible, then you don't lose anything. Krishna says right in the 2nd chapter that because it's spiritual, since if you have developed, say, 30% pure devotion, you still have some material things. All right, that's, you know, but you made progress. That's not lost. In your next lifetime, you'll be born in a family where you'll be able to become a devotee again, and you'll pick up then, you see? So for devotees, Mrityu sarvaharaschaham doesn't apply. Krishna doesn't take everything away. Everything material is taken away. Therefore, we try to minimize those material things, not to be attached to the material because they're going to be taken away eventually, because they're all related to the body. Body itself is taken away. So it's actually revelatory. It means that, and this is why we saw with Srila Prabhupada, and I can experience to some degree myself, is that, you know, I'm sitting here and I'm almost 76, but the same shlokas beginning with Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. The body gets old, but that mantra never gets old. You know, how many songs, you know, I mean, I was never that much into the old rock songs and everything. But, you know, so much, oh, right, you know, it's 1965, and Elvis Presley singing, you know, and I could really get into it. But then he's gone, you know, and the song is old, and you lose your taste, and you go to somewhere else, something else. This is what material life means. You keep, you know, you lose your taste for something. It's all right. I've done that already enough, but now something new is coming. Something new is coming. But in the spiritual world, spiritual things like this one mantra: Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When you really get pure, you can get constant pleasure from that one mantra. There's a beautiful verse about the holy name that's sung by one of our greatest acharyas named Rupa Goswami. There's a book, I don't know how familiar you are with the books. We have a book called Nectar of Devotion that was written by him in Sanskrit, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And Srila Prabhupada translated it, subtitled The Complete Science of Devotional Service. Very important book. So, I don't know if this verse is in that book, but it's by the same author. And he says, about the Hare Krishna mantra there. Tunde tandabari ritim vatanute tundavali labdhaye karna krodha kadambani gatayate karnarbude vyakspiham chetak prangana sangini vijayate sarvendriyanam kutim no jane janitaki yadvidamitai krishneti varnadvayi. Just chanting that verse is a big pleasure. So he's saying his experience of the chanting, you know, because we're chanting, but our mind is one, you know, we're not chanting purely, but we're still getting benefit out of it. So he says, I don't know how much nectar these two syllables Krishna have produced. When I chant them, they seem to dance within my mouth, and I want to have millions of mouths that taste the nectar that, you know, those two syllables. When they enter the ears, they seem to sprout. And I want to have millions of ears, to relish the beauty of that sound. And when they enter into the courtyard of the heart, all the senses become inert and become completely fixed on Krishna. He's describing his experience of the same mantra that we're chanting. Now, his brother wrote another beautiful verse about the holy name. It's in a book called the Bhagavad Gita, near the beginning. He says, Jayati Jayati Namananda Rupam Murare Vidamita Nija Dharma Dhyana Pujadi Yatnam Katamapi Sakradata Muktidam Pranayam Yat Padamamamritamekam Jivanam Bhushanam Me. So you have to understand, they're sitting there chanting like at least 64 rounds, which takes at least 5 hours or more. And their minds aren't wandering. They're completely absorbed, and they're tasting every syllable, like it's pure nectar. And it is pure nectar. So here's what he says: all glories to the holy name of Krishna, which is Namananda Rupam, the very form of bliss. Murari, the name of Murari. Murari is another name for Krishna, the enemy of the Mura demon. Jayati Jayati Nama Rupam Vidamita Nija Dharma Dhyana Pujadiyatam. And if one really gets into this chanting, it inspires him to give up all mundane duties and even Vedic duties that may try to get you to heaven. He said those all you're disinterested in that. And Katamapi Sakadatam, it is so merciful that if somehow or other, if someone chants it purely, it gets liberation. Muktidam praninam yat padamam amritam ekam. It is my supreme and soul nectar, padamam amritam jivanam, my very life, bhushanam, my only ornament. He's sitting there in a loincloth, chanting for hours and hours and hours and hours. So what is that? That is the pure soul contacting the pure holy name. Which is, see, Krishna, we're little samples of Krishna. That's why we're always looking for ways to enjoy, whether it's eating or this sense or that sense or something more subtle or whatever. We're enjoyers. By nature, Krishna is full of ananda. Anandamaya Vyasat. This is a little aphorism in the Vedanta Sutra. He's Anandamaya. He's made of Maya, made of Ananda. Full of Maya can mean full, always full of bliss. And how does he enjoy? By a variety of relationships. We have our imitative relationships here, by which we try to, we have the friends and we have the wife or the girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, children, That's really where people get their most happiness, in this, if there is any happiness, in relations with others, relations of love and friendship and things like that. But we know from experience it's temporary, and with a little irregularity and it can break up and it can become a source of great pain, these relationships. So, but the original relationships are with Krishna, and they're perfect. That's what's going on in the spiritual world. You read the Krishna book, which is Krishna's life in the spiritual world. It's a replica of Vrindavan 5,000 years ago. So he has all these intimate relationships with the cows. The cows are all his friends. They all have names, and he's so skilled with that flute that he can play their names on the flute, and call them. He has all these friends. They go out. Isn't it that, you imagine having a job where you go out and you play all day, and meanwhile your job is feeding the cows. Well, they're doing all right on their own, And then in the evening you bring them back, and that's your job. So that's Krishna's life in the spiritual world. So he's got all these friendships, and adventures. And then, of course, there's the adventures, with the gopis, But although it may look, oh, this is very sinful, no, it's completely wholesome. Because Krishna it's all centered on Krishna. Nobody's getting hurt, everybody's, in bliss. So that's life in the spiritual world, and it goes on. It doesn't stop because it's purely spiritual. So even on this planet, even in our own life, we can begin to experience some of that. And one of the things I just wanted to point out, I learned many of these verses, 30, 40 years ago, like the Chichintamani prayers. The Bhagavad Gita is full of so much bliss. This is Krishna speaking when you realize, oh, he's saying, Man mana bhavama, just think of me, become my devotee, worship me, bow down. Oh, well, that's what we're training up to do here, And certainly you'll come to me. So all of this is how one enjoys in spiritual life. The main form of enjoyment is kirtan. Kirtan is the essence of hearing and chanting. The holy name of Krishna is non-different from Krishna. The more that you can just concentrate the mind and receive the name and hear the wonderful sound, the more that you feel yourself transported out of the material world. And so that's what Krishna is, leading to in the Bhagavad Gita here. And he's telling Arjuna it's a big surrender, because all of his material relationships he has to put in the back burner now. All of these friends and relatives that he says, well, he may have to kill them or see them killed, but he knows nobody dies. They're not going to be, and because they're dying in the presence of Krishna, they're all being blessed. Whoever Krishna kills or happens to die in his presence, so nobody is going to be harmed by the battle. Anyone who gets killed, and so it's quite remarkable, and he's proving that here.
Sounds like an honorable death.
Yes, it's the best, And I've seen, because I've been at some bedsides of devotees who passed away over the years. And they usually ask me to come because, to chant Hare Krishna. And it's, you can feel this potency there, that this is the best way to go, because you're being reminded of Krishna. We'll learn in chapter 8, Antakale chamameva smadan mukta kalevaram yapriyati samadbhavam nati yasrata sankshaya. One who dies thinking of me certainly comes to me and never comes back again. And the general principle is, whatever you think of, whatever's the most prominent thought in your mind when you leave your body, that's going to be where you go. So you can imagine, how important it is to be trained so you don't, so you come to the point of always thinking of Krishna.
So, chanting this mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, does that link become stronger as you continue chanting? Yeah.
There's a nice verse. It says, Atak Shri Krishna Namadi Nabave Grayam Indiyai Sevan Mukhi Jivado Swayam Evaspurattada. That with our present senses and our mind, we can't really understand the full nature, power, and beauty of the whole name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna. But if we begin serving Krishna, beginning with the tongue, chanting and hearing, and of course tasting prasadam, and then follow the process of devotional service, then the mind, the senses become purified, and Krishna reveals himself. But we know from hearing the Acharya, the realized soul, Srila Prabhupada, and who's quoting Shastra, that the name itself is non-different from Krishna. All the potencies of Krishna are there in the sound. Because we're not hearing and chanting purely, we don't feel all the potencies. But still, even in our impure state, we can feel the attraction of Krishna, and we can feel the ability to give up things that we know are impediments. We become strong spiritually.
So with all the Maya in the world, how can you see Krishna when he reveals himself to you?
Well, the best thing to do is to associate with devotees directly and through the books, through the internet, whatever. There's so many ways, and its temple is a great facility. How can I see Krishna? Where is Krishna? Wait till the curtains open. He appears through the deity. These deity forms are very important. The archa, or the temple worship. Ultimately, all we need is a holy name. But we're not strong enough to just rely on the holy name. So these temples provide a place where we can gather and hear about Krishna, glorify Krishna, see Krishna, take prasadam. And in this way, even without much effort, we become purified just by that effort, just by associating. So you're doing the right thing.
Thank you. So you're saying Krishna is everywhere?
Krishna is definitely everywhere in everything. All right, let Antonella.
Maybe I should know this, but how old is the the Hare Krishna mantra?
How old?
I mean, does it come from Lord Chaitanya or from before?
From before.
From before. So I mean, it comes with Krishna himself? Or?
Yeah, you can't really measure how old it is. It's
in history, I'm talking...
the Upanishads. It's in the Upanishads.
So it's already there, yeah.
Yeah, ancient. It's a beautiful Upanishad called the Kali Santana Upanishad. And 2 verses, provide a wonderful explanation of the power of the holy name. The first verse is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Second verse is Iti Shodashakam Nam Nam Kali Kalmasanasanam Natak Parataropaya Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, he said these 16 names, Iti Shodashakam Nam Nam Kali Kalmasanasanam, destroy the evils of the Kali Yuga. You see? And you may search through all the Vedas, you will not find a more potent means of counteracting the evils of this age than chanting these holy names. So this is important because it shows that Lord Chaitanya's teaching, he didn't make it up. You know, this mantra has been there since time immemorial in the Vedas, and we're just taking advantage of it. Well, come to 8 o'clock. Okay, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Haribol.
So you mentioned about Brihad Bhagavatam. So I just want
Bhagavatamrita.
Bhagavatamrita. I just wanted to know more about it. How is it similar to Bhagavatam, or like what is it?
Brihad Bhagavatamrita is written by Sanatana Goswami, and the format is that I forget how the story is that I think it's Parikit's son. No, his mother wants somehow or other. She wants a summary of the whole Bhagavatam that he heard. You know, the 7 days. And so this is what this is. It's the nectar of the Bhagavatam, the essential nectar of the Bhagavatam. And the format is 2 parts. And the first one is that Narada Muni is searching for who really has the mercy of Krishna. And he goes to this one, that one, this one gradually goes up, you know, and each one says, no, I don't really, you know, have the mercy. But you go to this one, you go to Prahlad Maharaj, he has the mercy. Then he goes on and up and up. Until finally, you get to the gopis. And the gopis have the most mercy, you know. And the second part is about this search of Gopakumara. And he's trying to get back to the spiritual world, you know, back to Goloka Vrindavan. And it's his going here and there, you know, gradually up and up and up until he gets to Goloka Vrindavan. And it's this very famous painting, you've probably seen it, where Krishna is embracing him. You know, he says, oh, there's Sarup. That's his original name in the spiritual world. And he goes and embraces him, and both of them faint. And in ecstasy, and Sarup gets up first, and all the gopis come. What have you done to our Krishna? Because he's still on the ground. It's very dramatic, but it's full of all kinds of you know, wonderful experiences and teachings about the different levels of devotional service and going through. And I had good fortune that my dear friend Gopi Puranadana Prabhu, who I worked with on the Bhagavatam in the 80s. After the Bhagavatam was done, then we had to have a meeting and so what books are we going to do now? You know, now the Prabhupada's Bhagavatam is finally done. So I came up with the idea of these 2 books, which Mukunda Mala and the Narada Bhakti Sutra, because Prabhupada started them both. But he stopped them to do the Bhagavatam, never got back. And so they're both wonderful, they're different characters. Mukunda Mala Stotra is by King Kulashekar. He one of the Alvars. These are great devotees who lived in South India in the, you know, 400, 500, 600, 700, way before Lord Chaitanya. And this Mukunda Mala Stotra was printed by Bhaktivinoda Thakur and kept in print. It's such a wonderful book. And the other one, the Narada Bhakti Sutra, is even more. It's just the sutras. It's like 85 sutras, you know. So it's short, but it requires some commentary. Prabhupada started writing the commentary. And Satsu Maharaj and Gopi Purana finished it. So those 2 were done. But then later on, it was decided that Prabhupada also mentioned this Brihad Bhagavatamrita in one purport in the CC. And he said, if you really want to understand Krishna, you have to read the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Oh, okay, well, we have to have a Brihad Bhagavatamrita. So Gopi Puranadana Prabhu and Jayaveda Swami and Keshava Bharati Maharaj, he also helped with the editing. He was training up. They all produced it, and it's a wonderful translation. And the commentary, as Gopi, I call him Gopi. Everyone calls him Gopi. He explains that his commentary is basically just translating Sanatana Goswami's own commentary on his own book. They would do that, you know. So it's very well done, very readable, and it's the definitive Bhagavatamrita, and it's in the database. It's free. So we don't know, so we easily read it. All right, we have time for one poem. Sorry, we kind of got a little far afield, but I think we'll continue tomorrow. So let's see. So this is just a poem, a meditation by Rupa Goswami on Lord Krishna's face, and he compares it to a lotus, which is quite appropriate. And he's praying that lotus, Krishna's face, will forever grow in the lake of his heart. In other words, that he'll always remember it. Smita duchi makadanda syandi vaktrara vindam tavapadapatahangsan vishta gandham mukunda vidishita pashupadi netra saranga rangam mamadidiyata dage sangamangi karotu. Now you can try to visualize Giridhari with this. From the lotus of your face, dear Lord, trickles forth the luscious nectar of the beauty of your smile. Your exalted devotees, great swans, seek the fragrance of that lotus which the air their hearts beguile. Your beloved gopis' eyes, mad bees, taste the most exquisite pleasure in that lotus of your face. O my dear Mukunda Dev, I pray, may the lake of my poor heart be by that lotus ever graced. Hare Krishna. Oh, we have time for another one. You ready? Okay. Now here's the Rupa Goswami's incredible skill with the Sanskrit. You can listen to the sound. Just the sound itself should send you into ecstasy. Udasipadispuradindidamindindidamandira sujolasitam hadamanganata mangala mangala sachandanam bande. I'll say, you say. Udasipadispuradindidamindindidamandira sujolasitam. No? Okay. I get it. We'll have to print it out. From upon his chest is manifest the mark of goddess Shri, and thereto rests the best of wreaths, a temple for the bees, who worship him by singing hymns that limn his loving play. Now you have to know this word limb. L-I-M-N. Usually it's L-I-M-B, like an arm, but L-I-M-N means to describe, believe it or not. Like from the word illumine, like illumine. Start again. Upon his chest is manifest the mark of goddess Shri, and thereto rests the best of wreaths, a temple for the bees, who worship him by singing hymns that limn his loving play. While Shri Hari most gleefully acclaims the way they pray. For Braja's love-mad milkmaids, and for all the Brahmins' wives, Shri Krishna is the ultimate good fortune in their lives. His sandal paste anointed limbs bedim the full moon's glow. Unto the lotus feet of Shri Hari I bow down low. Okay, one more. This one is from the Shikshastika. Some of you may know this verse. But it's chanted in such a way, those verses, the middle three, can be chanted in a different way. Ainandatanu jikinkadam patitam vashame bhavambudho kripayata vapata pankajas tatatuli sadusham vichintaya. Your servant for eternity, I lost my true identity and fell into this horrid sea of birth and death, O Lord. O Nanda's son, please hear my plea. By your sweet grace, consider me a speck of dust upon your lotus feet forevermore. And on that note, let us adjourn, and we'll have a nice kirtan, hopefully. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So tomorrow we have another class, if you can make it. Yes. Good.
Are you going to be there?
I'll be here. I'm sorry? Yeah, we got more fun tomorrow. All right, text 31. We didn't get very far.
Noah came last week and also came to the Chula Vista program on.
I'm sorry?
Noah he came last week when Baba.
Oh, he was in the Chula Vista?
And he came to Chula Vista.
Are you from down there? Spring Valley. Wow. So it's quite a, what we call jagya, sacrifice for you to come.